Star Trek adds a multiverse version of Starfleet's Prime Directive, and it's a big improvement to Canon. Star Trek's Prime Directive, Starfleet's strict non-interference policy with pre-warp civilizations, has always been one of the franchise's most defining and controversial principles. From the original series through Strange New Worlds, captains have wrestled with its moral clarity and its practical flexibility. But now, a new twist in the Star Trek canon proposes something bold, a multiverse version of the Prime Directive, one that doesn't just regulate interactions between species at different technological levels, but between entirely different realities. This change might sound like a risky layer of complexity, but in practice, it could be one of the most exciting and necessary evolutions to Star Trek's moral philosophy in decades. Why Starfleet needed a multiverse directive? For decades, Star Trek operated on the assumption that Starfleet existed in a single coherent timeline, the Prime Universe. The Prime Directive was meant to prevent well-intentioned meddling that could destabilize a culture's natural development. But recent Star Trek series Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and Prodigy have embraced the multiverse and alternate timelines far more openly. The result? Starfleet officers are encountering not just different cultures, but different versions of cultures, some more advanced, some more dangerous, and some who have lived through wildly different historical events. From the mirror universe to Kelvin timeline-style divergences, Starfleet now faces scenarios the original Prime Directive never anticipated. For example, imagine a Federation captain discovering an alternate timeline where the Romulans have already joined the Federation, or one where the Borg never became a threat. The temptation to borrow technologies or political models from another reality would be enormous and potentially catastrophic if such interference rippled across the multiversal web. That's where the Multiverse Prime Directive comes in. How the Multiverse Directive works. This updated Starfleet policy is rooted in the same philosophy as the original Prime Directive, respecting the natural evolution of a society, but applies it across quantum realities. The new rule, informally nicknamed the Infinity Directive by Starfleet cadets, prohibits 1. Transferring advanced technology between universes without Federation Council authorization. 2. Introducing knowledge of alternate histories to civilizations that have no awareness of the multiverse. 3. Altering events in another timeline to fix perceived problems in the prime reality or vice versa. 4. Using multiversal travel for strategic advantage in conflicts in one's home reality. In other words, the Infinity Directive doesn't just guard against contaminating less advanced cultures, it guards against contaminating the very structure of reality. Why it's a big improvement over the original. The original Prime Directive was famously rigid and often applied in ways that made captains squirm. The next generation's Jean-Luc Picard often argued that even helping a dying species might constitute a violation if their death was part of their natural development. But that inflexibility often left Starfleet officers walking moral tightropes, forced to choose between compassion and law. The multiverse version is less about moral absolutism and more about existential stability. Instead of being tied to an arbitrary technological milestone like warp capability, the Infinity Directive is tied to preventing cascading cross-reality disruptions. It's rooted in the understanding, reinforced by 32nd century discovery science, that realities are fragile and interconnected in ways Starfleet only recently began to understand. Another improvement? It acknowledges mutual respect between universes. In the past, Starfleet treated the Prime Directive as a one-way rule. We won't interfere with you. But in multiversal diplomacy, the danger goes both ways. Just as Prime Universe Starfleet must resist the temptation to borrow technology from a more advanced counterpart, it must also prevent hostile or overly curious parallel Starfleets from influencing the Prime timeline. The moral gray zones still exist. The beauty of Star Trek's storytelling is that no rule, however well written, survives perfect moral clarity in the field. The Infinity Directive might seem straightforward, but episodes would quickly explore its gray areas. Scenario 1. An alternate universe's Federation is facing extinction due to a supernova. The Prime Federation has the technology to stop it. Does helping them risk destabilizing their reality in ways science can't predict? Or is it a moral obligation? Scenario 2. A Prime Universe crew is stranded in a timeline where Starfleet is a brutal dictatorship. If they overthrow that government to survive, is it a violation or self-defense? Scenario 3. A catastrophic event in the Prime reality could be averted by pulling key historical data from an alternate universe where that disaster never happened. Is that stealing history? Or saving lives? The Infinity Directive would allow Star Trek writers to keep exploring these hard-edged moral dilemmas while giving characters a framework for debating them, one that feels fresh and relevant in a post-multiverse era. The legacy of previous multiversal encounters. If we look back, Starfleet has already had dozens of unregulated multiverse encounters that would now fall under the Infinity Directive. In Mirror TOS, Kirk and his crew not only interacted with their mirror universe doubles, but directly influenced Spock's future reforms in that reality. Star Trek Voyager's Non Sequitur had Harry Kim manipulating events to restore his original timeline. Star Trek Discovery's first 2 seasons revolved heavily around prime mirror interactions that altered both universes' politics. Star Trek Picard Season 2 dealt with Q's manipulation of an alternate Confederation timeline. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4 saw playful but risky dimensional shenanigans that could have qualified as violations. By codifying rules now, Starfleet isn't rewriting history so much as acknowledging it's been playing multiversal roulette for decades and deciding the game needs referees. A storytelling goldmine. From a narrative perspective, the Infinity Directive is a gift. It lets Star Trek tell fresh morality tales while tying them directly into modern sci-fi's fascination with the multiverse. In an era where Marvel, DC, and countless other franchises are playing with parallel realities, Star Trek's version of multiversal ethics could stand out precisely because it approaches the concept like a diplomat and philosopher, not just an action hero. Instead of let's hop to the next reality for a fun cameo, the stakes would be about preserving identity, respecting autonomy, and preventing existential collapse. Imagine a Strange New Worlds episode where Pike has to negotiate a treaty between 3 different versions of the Klingon Empire, each from different universes, each convinced their version of honor is the correct one. Or a Starfleet Academy story arc where cadets must pass a simulation involving an impossible choice between violating the Infinity Directive or letting billions die. The policy also encourages recurring characters from alternate timelines, since part of the Infinity Directive involves formalized diplomacy. We could finally see stable, ongoing relations with the Mirror Universe's reformed Starfleet faction, or even regular joint missions with